Boom, I'm in the room. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome, one and all. Now, the reason you guys are here is because there's nothing on the telly. And I'm coming to you live from the old Hill Manor. And I'm your host, Lord Hill. So, I've got a brilliant guest on this evening. We've just had a little bit of a preamble chat. You're going to love tonight. This is going to be really good fun. So, without before we go on, a quick update: the live awesome quiz is now moving to Wednesday evening. So next week it'll be Wednesday, and the reason is that Tuesday evening I've been mugged into joining a choir. Evening, Marcus. What's on the telly? Nothing's on the telly. I'm on the telly. So this channel's all about mental health, mental well-being, and taking the stigma out of mental well-being, mental health. So that's what we're trying to do. This evening, I'm going to have a chat with my guest about setting, or let's talk about boundaries. Let's set boundaries about relationships. And this I'm really looking forward to. So without too much further ado, let's bring my guest in. Welcome, Heather. Good evening to you. How are you? Oh, good afternoon. It's afternoon.
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Lovely to be here.
No, you're most welcome. So, Heather, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now, and then I'll come back in and we'll have a chat about relationships and setting boundaries and how we go about meeting people and all the rest of it. So, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tim. I've never been what I would consider a typical person. I've not lived a typical life. I have run away and joined the carnival. I've hung out with street people in New York City. I've taught and educated and written in alternative lifestyles. And throughout all of this, I found myself in an abusive marriage. And when I left, I wanted to do everything I could to never go through something like that again. Not only put myself through that, but never have a partner that went through that sort of thing with me as well, because I believe abuse has its own negative patterns in the even in the abuser. And last year, as I was going through some life changes, I decided that I was finally going to write that book about boundaries that I had been meaning to write. And I tell you, I could not be happier or more passionate about the idea that boundaries are not only the key to saving ourselves and specifically our mental health, but also saving our relationships. And so that's what brings me here today. I am just a few weeks out, September 20th. My book, Take No Shit, Building Better Boundaries in Relationships in 3, sometimes 5 easy steps, is going to be available. And I'm super excited to talk with you all about it. So,
Brilliant. Well, writing a book as well about setting boundaries.
yeah.
I mean, so many people that I speak to come through difficult relationships, and they're stuck in those relationships for decades, and they just haven't had the courage to say enough is enough, and to sort of come to attention, turn right, and march off. You've done it.
I did it. It was not easy. I wasn't even raised typically. Thank you so much, Marcus. I wasn't even raised typically, in the sense that I was not taught that, you know, you got married and you stayed together no matter what. And yet somehow I was socialized that way. That was indoctrinated in me. And so when my partner was abusive, and going through mental health issues, I felt like I had to stick it out no matter the harm done to me. Um, and so leaving was incredibly difficult. It went against what who I thought I was as a person at the time. I just, for whatever reason, I finally believed that if I continued like that, that I don't know. I want to feel like I wouldn't survive, but I didn't mean like I would die. I just meant like the core that is me, that I value about
Mm.
myself, would not have survived. And so I took that step. And once I took that step, speaking specifically about mental health, I also went and got, I did a battery of tests to see, where I fall on various mental scales. I'm neurospicy myself. And I learned, a lot about myself and my proclivities through that. And I'm a geek. I like to read and research things. So, in the next year and a half after leaving that marriage, I read about 500 different books on love, sex, romance, and relationships, trying
Wow.
to give myself like a good foundation. And then I went
I'm
to
not.
work.
I'm not even sure I've read 500 books in my entire life. But there again, I
Yeah.
do suffer from dyslexia, so reading's not my best subject. But I do read occasionally when I'm doing some
Yeah. Yeah.
research and stuff like that.
I've been reading quickly and a lot most of my life. I read less now, perhaps, mostly probably because I'm writing so much. I don't read as much when I'm writing constantly. But yeah, that led me into a journey of exploring what it means to be me, which then led me to interacting with other people who were on similar journeys, which then led me to writing about my journey, and then writing for people who were on similar journeys, and then coaching and creating workshops and educating and so on and so forth for people who were trying to create the life that they daydream about.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, when you sort of you're growing up, I'm like 265. In my early days as a young fella, um, you you go out and you're sort of scared of girls. You'd be scared of girls, and you wouldn't know how to approach them and all the rest of it. And then sort of when you get into sort of your later adolescence, all you want to do is have sex rather than a relationship, and that's basically
Absolutely.
what young fellas are all about. And then as you get sort of into your sort of your 20s and your 30s, you're looking at sort of maybe settling down and starting a family and all the rest of it, and how you go about finding a lady to marry or whatever. It's all about going out to pubs and bars looking for people, and that's how we used to do it way back when.
Mhm.
And or a friend of a friend would put you up on a blind date and stuff like that, and I could all sorts of nightmares that you could have for that. Um, but but in recent years, I mean, my story particularly is I'd been married for 25 years. My wife died, just up and died and left me, which was hard at the time. And it was about, I don't know, 6 months or so later. I'd gone out on an operational tour to Afghanistan for 6 months. When I came back, I found it really, really difficult. I found myself really lonely, surrounded by people in the mess every night. And somebody said, "Why don't you try internet dating?" So I
Mm.
did, and that was a lot of fun. It was a massive eye opener. So, so I understand that you know a little bit about the old internet dating malarkey.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've done more than my fair share. I have been on volunteer teams, mod teams for various dating sites. I have run a dating app. Um, I think one of the things to really keep in mind when it comes to internet dating, and this is what I would consider, it's a pivot point. It can be both very, very good and very, very bad, all wrapped up
Mm,
in the same thing. And that is internet dating allows us to interact with people that we might never come into contact with through our natural habits and channels. And in addition to that, simply engaging online often makes us feel far more intimate, like we know each other better
mm,
than when we're doing the same thing in person, because our brains have a tendency to sort of fill in those gaps, which in some ways can be very good because we're meeting people we wouldn't meet otherwise, right? And we're connecting with them in really fantastic, interesting ways. And we're meeting people we wouldn't meet otherwise, which there might be a good reason for that, right? We don't have the same interests. We don't travel in the same circles. We would normally avoid the types of people they are and the places that they hang out. Um, and we then feel closer to them than our actual awareness of who they are as a person should allow us to feel. And that's where boundaries, like
mm,
knowing who you are and what you are willing to share online about your life, about your privacy, about, what you like to do for fun, about your thoughts, and so on and so forth, can be really important so that you're not just telling this internet stranger everything about you because your imagination is that
mm.
you're in love, or that this could possibly be the one, or whatever. Online dating is a tool. We talked about this a little bit before.
Yeah.
It's
So
if you imagine that it's a hammer, it's really good for beating things, but it's not really good for screwing things. um Ooh, that did not come out anyway. And and
so so
internet dating
so
is really good for meeting, but
yeah, but
you
for
need to get
building
in
the
person before
yeah.
you do things.
So
Yeah.
so somebody that sort of run these internet dating sites and all the rest of it, how how did he how does the algorithm sort of match people up? Does it purely go on what people put in their profile? Does it you'll be how do you police how do you police the what people have actually putting in about themselves? I mean, my experience is that the ladies I met, the pictures that they post doesn't quite match up to the actual looks when you meet them in person. The ages don't quite sort of correlate
So
with what you're looking at.
that's two things.
Yep.
One, the algorithm is that's the challenge with a dating site, right? Is that the algorithm, the way they build it, is kind of like the same thing that you get on Amazon, right? People who liked this might also like this. I
Mm.
bought my friends a baby shower gift not long ago, And ever since then, Amazon keeps sending me baby items. Has nothing to do with me. I was buying a gift. And they should know that because it was sent to a different address and it was marked as a gift. Um,
Yeah.
so the algorithms in matching people is probably just about as accurate, right? I had somebody match with me and I looked through, his profile and I was like, "Thank you very much. Not a good fit. Best of luck to you." He said, "Well, we have a 99.9 or a 98% match." And I'm like, "Yes, but with chimpanzees, that 2% matters very, very much." Um, and then there's the other side, what people put in their profiles.
Yeah.
If people can put whatever they want in
Mm.
their profiles, right? And what you're suggesting when they post pictures of
Yeah.
themselves, maybe a few years younger, maybe a few pounds less, that's actually called kitten fishing.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
Marcus has put
just,
a really good comment there. Isn't lying online wasting everybody's time?
so yes, yes, it is. Absolutely. Um, and that's where you have to really get to the point of, I am valuable and worthwhile the way that I am. And anybody who matches with me is going to have to value who I am online and off for this to go anywhere. Right.
Mm.
So that, to me, that is part of setting um, not just your boundaries, who are you and who are you not in dating, but also I like to say that boundaries and ethics are two sides of the same coin. Boundaries are who we are, what we accept, what we prioritize. Ethics are everything else. That's not me. I don't want that in my life. I want less of that in my life. And how am I going to treat you as a person? And I'm not going to pretend that I'm somebody else, or that I'm 50 pounds lighter, or that I didn't just turn 50, because that would be crappy to do to you as a
Mm.
human. And as Marcus says, it's wasting my time as well, because when you meet me and I am, a 50-year-old curvy woman with plenty of flaws, I'm doing myself a disservice because that's not what you signed up for.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun at the time. So when I think it was around about 10 or 12 dates that I went out on, and then I met a lady, and we started going out. But being two Aries, which is a couple of fire signs, I mean, while it was the early days, it was like absolute fire. It was awesome, and then as time goes on, the fire sort of starts dwindling a little bit, and then it doesn't go quite so well. But I did have a lot of fun at the time, which was great, and it got me out of that feeling of loneliness that I was stuck in.
Yeah,
And we
sure.
could be surrounded by loads of people and still feel very, very lonely. I mean, the loss of somebody. We've covered this bereavement quite a bit on the channel in the past, and yeah, some of the feelings that you go through with loss, and it takes quite a bit of time to get over that. But a similar sort of thing with dating. I mean, you've been going out with somebody for a little while, you see it's not working, so you part, and it's a bit like losing somebody again. So
It is. It is.
it's a funny old game, but it has changed totally. It's not like it used to be when I was growing up, and probably not so much with you, but looking for a partner in the old days, you have to go out to actually meet people, and trying to meet people in a disco and in all the noise and everything, which was never great fun. Not for me anyway. But
I've never been the type of person to go out. I've always been more early to bed, early to rise. When I go out, it's because I'm going out with and for my friends, not because like I just want to get out and party the
yeah,
night away or whatever. But I would say that online dating had this heyday there for a while where
mm,
it was really allowing people to reach out beyond themselves and discover new opportunities. And now I feel like even online is bringing us back to more hyper focused to, get online, see what's out there, and then bring it back to in-person meetings as quickly as possible. Let's get out,
yeah,
let's do things with our friends, let's, connect through community events and so on and so forth. I think that wheel has made a full turn, and
yeah,
now more people are using that online dating as a tool instead of the specific means to an end.
yeah. I've noticed something new that's popped up in the last probably, I don't know, 6 months, a year, called Meetup,
Hmm.
and
Actually, Meetup has been
it's
around for a long time.
as it
Um,
it's only
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
popped
yeah.
up into
It's been
my
around
my what's name?
maybe a decade.
Oh, blimey,
Um, let's see, Meetup. I'm one of those people. Meetup was started in 2002.
good grief!
Yeah, yeah. But I
It's
think
only just
again,
sort of come to my attention in the last sort of 6 months or so, where it's popped up on my social.
I think it's getting a bit of a renaissance.
Hmm.
People after the pandemic,
Yeah.
people are sick of being online. They want to get out and do things with other humans in what we affectionately used to call real life meet space, right?
Yeah.
You've got online and then you've got your meet space where your bodies can actually physically interact. Um, and I think that that's having a bit of a resurgence because we were so locked away. And now we, of course, need to come out,
Yeah.
and the pendulum needs to swing the other direction.
Hmm. Needs to do something, I suppose, for some people. But
Oh, absolutely.
the I think the fun part is is just getting out and meeting people. And
Hmm.
I think lockdown has taught us that we need interaction with people face to face rather than all online all the time. But I think the current generation, they're used to it. They're used to doing everything online. And I think they're the ones that
I
are
think
probably going to struggle in the future when it comes to actually face to face meeting up with
I think that
relationships.
that is more. So again, if we go back to the idea of online as a tool, or online as a drug, right? Not unlike caffeine or cigarettes. There are going to be some people whose personality types make them incredibly susceptible to doing too much online,
Mm,
right? And I mean, I see this in people in my generation. Um, Maybe not so much 250 some odd years ago, but when people my age in their, mid 40s to early 60s, when the internet started coming around and they started getting online, those people who were maybe a little more introverted found themselves feeling a lot more comfortable and able to be themselves. And so they got into, bulletin board systems and listservs and all of these different things. And they started making their social lives, their social homes online. And we're seeing that as well through subsequent generations because they can. That said, in my community, a lot of the younger people are just they're active online in the same way that they're active on their phone. That is their way of connecting and continuing their in-person interactions in a space that allows them to continue getting to know each other in between the times that they're physically together.
Mm.
So I think there are ways to use it that are harmful and ways to use it that are incredibly beneficial. And it's more about mental health and well being and making sure that you're doing things that serve you and you're not just avoiding things that terrify you.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. That it can be so detrimental to your own well-being if you allow somebody into your life through these dating apps and you think they're the right one and all the rest of it, and they turn out to be a duffin, a wrong un. And I'm sure that happens an awful lot where I guess it comes down to that bit of somebody gets desperate and they're desperate for somebody to love them. They're desperate to get into a relationship. They're lonely. They've had lots of rejections, and then they're so desperate that they 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 pick on one that just isn't going to be right for them, and it goes horribly wrong. And I think that is where it can fall down massively, and that's where the checks and
Oh, absolutely.
balances need
I
to be
think, though,
looked at.
that this is true. This was true before online dating, right? You had
Mm.
the dear lonely hearts. You know, you had the personals in the paper. You
Oh yeah, pen
had
pals.
the yeah, and the troubadours that went from town to town and did their rotten thing in every single town and so on and so forth. There will always be, there always have been, and will always be online. Again, it speeds up the process, maybe.
Mm.
There's more people doing more things, and so that makes it slightly easier. But I mean, I'm sure you've read the stories where there's the guy who's been married for 17 years, has 3 kids, and then it turns out he's also been married for 6 years and has another kid in a different town, and nobody knew, right? Like, these
Yeah.
people have always existed. Um, that said, I look at something like that and I'm like, okay, so if both of those women and those home lives were incredibly happy and fulfilled, they were fine. He wasn't
Mm.
actually theoretically doing a lot of harm. I mean, lying is not good and yada, yada, yada,
No.
but ultimately he was able to keep 2 people very happy for a long period of time. Like,
Yeah. Trying
some of
trying to
us
keep
can't
two or
keep
three
ourselves
girlfriends
happy
on
for
the
that.
go at once.
Yeah.
It's hard
Yeah.
work.
But to go back to what you were saying and focusing in on the mental health aspects, um,
Yeah.
loneliness is really difficult,
Mm.
debilitating. Touch starvation for those people who don't get just casual physical touch from their daily lives. It can drive a person nearly mad, right? And so then when they start to experience a connection, they are willing to stomp their own boundaries, their own personal rules, whatever,
Mm.
in order to not feel that loneliness again. And people do this even once they're married, right? They're married, but I won't leave this person because it might make me lonely, no matter how much harm this person is doing to me. Um, and it goes on and on and on. And the challenge is it is really, really hard
Mm.
to fix that pattern when you're in the middle of it and you don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't
I
know
mean, you
what's
see
wrong. You don't know.
so many abusive relationships where the police are dragged in quite often to break them
Oh,
up.
yeah.
The wife doesn't want to press charges and then goes back again. I can't remember what the exact statistics are, but it's about somewhere around about 25, 30 times that she'll go back in and get battered again before she
Mhm.
finally has the courage to walk away. But
I would say it's not even
it
just courage,
no,
because
it's
if you think about it from a perspective, you've got a dog, you've got a cat. If
yeah,
you think about it from the perspective of how have they been trained? What do they think is normal, right? What do they think
yeah,
they deserve? I mean, yeah, you can say, okay, it's courageous, but to get to courageous, they actually have to believe that they deserve to live, that they deserve to
mm,
thrive. There has to be a spark somewhere that says, you are worthy of better. And they have to believe that for long enough to get out. And that spark is really incredibly difficult for a lot of people to find, because if I say to you, well, Marcus, I need you to feel confident. I need you to feel valuable. Well, like, if you've never really felt that before in your life, how do you even take that first step?
yeah,
And that's why I wrote about boundaries, because to me, it's not about I'm valuable or whatever. I mean, that comes with time. It's about, what can I say I want more of in my life, and what can I say I don't want and I want less of in my life. Those are questions people can answer about themselves and begin to create the self-expression and authenticity that allows them to live their value before they fully 100% feel it.
mm, yeah. So I mean, actually, the physical abuse becomes an everyday occurrence. So it's like you're saying, it's you get used to that, and that's a normal everyday occurrence for certain people. But
Yes.
it can end in one or two ways. Generally, they end up getting seriously hurt or killed, or they finally uh, are able to break loose from that relationship, and then that turns their life around totally. And I
Mhm.
think that can also have a massive effect on their mental well-being. Having been through all that abuse, to finally having it stop, then that can again create problems where they just fall into loneliness and depression because that that abuse has stopped, but that abuse is because they're wanted, because
Yeah, because usually with
they're
abuse,
wanted as
it's
a
not
punch bag.
you're not just being a punch bag 24/7. That only happens when you've done something wrong.
Yeah,
Often it's intermittent between, I love you, you're so good, I didn't mean it, you just make me so mad, I'll do better next time, like, so there's,
yeah,
you've been in the military, you know what brainwashing is like, you know how
yeah,
this works, right? Like, they're not just missing the punching bag, they're being a punching bag, they are missing what they believed the potential in that relationship was. They're missing the chance to prove that their love was strong enough to save this person from their own demons.
Mm.
They're missing the fact that they thought that they were a loyal, loving person, and now they left somebody. So they're missing that part of themselves. Like there's so much wrapped up into it, and everybody does it differently, right? So, and when I was in my marriage, it was, um, if I can just prove to him that I
Mm.
love him as much as I do, if he could just see it, he wouldn't feel the need to drink and to rage. And at the time, I did not know that, he had a actual mental diagnosis. But I probably would have thought, well, if I just love him enough, then that will go away too. Because when you're young and you're in love, you do dumb things and you think dumb things. And
Yeah. I think we kind of all have been down that road or seen somebody that's gone down that road, and
some of
yeah,
us more than once,
yep. There there are people that there are people that attract the wrong types all the time.
for sure.
Uh, but there you go. That's and there's sometimes there's just no helping some people.
I think with people like that, it's, yeah, Marcus, it is a cruel trap to be in. And I think
Yeah.
with people that play those relationship patterns over and over again, if it's somebody that you care about, all we can do is just be there and
Yeah.
say, I love you. You deserve more. I'm here for you. I can't always hear this because what I'm hearing is harm to somebody I care about. But if you ever need anything, I'm here to help. And because they're adults, right? They have
Hmm.
to live their own lives. We can't force
Yeah.
them. We can't live it for them. I mean, that's part of boundaries. It's part of ethics. We don't want people to save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
We want to do what we want to do at any given time, and we have to let the people that we love do that too, even if we think they're making a huge mistake.
So, how do you go about giving people advice on when you see a difficult relationship? Um, how would you approach that to let them know that there is something better?
So that's a really tricky question
I
because,
can only apologise
again,
for that. I'm good at that sort of thing.
no, that's, it's a good question. It's a good question. But to me, honoring other people's boundaries, the ethics of living my boundaries means that I don't look at somebody else's relationship and say, you know what? You've got this totally fark nuddled. Let me fix it for you. Right? That's
Mm.
because that's very much coming from a place of superiority and smugness,
Yeah.
right? Like that's, I'm not here to tell you how to do things. What I am here for when it comes to my friends is if they ask for my advice, I will give it to them.
Mm.
If they ask, I will say, like, if they say, I'm having this issue, sometimes I will say, in that situation, what I might do
Yeah.
would be XYZ. Now, I'm a different person than you are, but this is an example.
Yeah.
Um,
So Marcus has
and
said, help them to help themselves.
yeah, because again, if our best friend is caught in the middle of a tar pit, right?
Mm.
And we're reaching out to help them, but we don't even have firm footing. We can actually cause them more trouble
Yeah.
and put ourselves in a bit of a mess, right? So now in my coaching and workshops and in my books, what I like to do is I like to lay out here are the benefits of certain types of thinking and certain types of actions or behaviors that can help you choose for yourself what you want out of your life and your relationships. And then it gives potential paths towards that. So it's more like, remember when we were younger, like the choose your own adventure type books. It's more
Yeah.
like that, right? You know, you can go through and you can see what really resonates with you. Um, like out of the 6 types of boundaries, you've got material boundaries, you've got time boundaries, you've got physical boundaries, you've got sexual boundaries, you've got intellectual boundaries, and you've got emotional boundaries. Now, with those 6 types of boundaries, I personally might need the most help and attention with like my emotional boundaries. Whereas you might find yourself not being as good with your intellectual boundaries, right? And so that's what, to me, a book,
What are you trying to say?
but to me, that's what a book or a workshop or
Yeah.
coaching allows for is what resonates with me right now that allows me to look at my life and not just survive it, but thrive,
Mm.
right? Who would I be in the picture I have in my mind of me thriving and living a life full of love and connection and joy? Who am I in that image? And how do I live that person?
Sound advice, that. Sound advice. Try and live who you want to be.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
And get your boundaries, all your ducks in a row.
Oof.
That's
Yes.
more
All those
challenging
ducks
than
in a
it
row.
sounds to get all your ducks in a
It
row.
is It is absolutely, I mean, I don't think anybody gets all their ducks in a row ever, right? Because as
No.
soon as we get all the ducks that we know of in a row, there's a couple little more ducks going, like getting out of the row and going to do their own thing in a way that we never even knew was a possibility. This is the joy of the life experience, right? Otherwise, we'd get bored.
Mm.
Sometimes, though, I think we could stand to be a little bit more bored.
Occasionally.
Doesn't always have to be quite that challenging.
Absolutely. So, Heather, how can people get hold of your book?
So right now the book is on pre-order on Amazon. You can find the links to Amazon, Amazon UK, Amazon India, yada yada yada, all at my.curiouser, CURIOUSER.life. My.curiouser.life. You can also, if you choose, share your email address with me to get updates for the print version of the book, which will be out in late October, and the audio version of the book, which will also be out at about that same time. And for those who are interested, at that same link, my.curiouser.life, you can actually download the first 100 pages of an earlier draft of the book without even giving your email address. You can download it free and clear and see if what I have to say resonates with you. And if it does, you can buy the book. You can join my workshop. You can ask for coaching with me. You could get on our email list if you want to and learn more about, the next versions of the books that are coming out and the new projects I have, about podcasts that I'm going to be on or that I have been on, that sort of thing. My goal is to make it as easy as possible for people to learn healthy boundaries in a way that is accessible to them.
Mm. So, who's doing your audiobook?
Actually, I'm doing my audiobook. Um,
Probably the best
I,
person to do it.
I well, so um, I've had other people do my audiobooks before under a pen name and a different audience. And I really enjoyed that. But this book, and I think the future books that I've got coming up, because I've also got the next one that I've already started, outlining is a book about communication. Actions speak louder than words, or do they? How we communicate and kill our relationships with talking. Um, and the way I wrote this book, and if you choose to download the first 100 pages, you're going to see this. It is very much my voice. It is me speaking to you. It's not talking about like generalities. It is me speaking directly to the reader. It has illustrations throughout the book, it has interesting stories. And I feel like for this project, this series that I kind of have forming in my head, that the best way to do it is for me to just say, hey, I'm here to work with you through your boundaries, and let's do this together. Put your headset on, listen to my voice. Let's talk about what boundaries are and how they can benefit you. And there's probably over 100 questions in the book scattered throughout the chapters, like, how would you feel if this happened? What do you do about this? Just to get you thinking. And I really feel like in this case, it's such a personal endeavor. Me for you, whoever you happen to be, that I really, really want to be the one to read and present this.
Fantastic. Now, I'll put all that in the description, so you'll be able to find all those links.
Awesome.
So, Heather, thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed this chat.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I love the questions and the topics that you sort of brought out of me. It's always fun to look at my topic through another person's perspective. And I absolutely adore that, especially because I don't think I've had the opportunity to have a perspective from somebody in their, 250th
65
year. 265. See? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to have this opportunity.
1758. I mean, underneath this gorgeous exterior is an absolute train wreck going on. But
Thank you, Darlene. I'm glad you were here. That's lovely.
Thank you very much. Wow. That's been really, really insightful. Really, really good. I've enjoyed that little chat this evening. One hopes that you have. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Darlene. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks to everybody else that's also been out there that's been listening. It means a lot, and it's all about helping people with their mental well-being. So until next week's going to be slightly different. Next week, I think it'll work. I'll have a live guest in the studio. So until next week, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.